Welcome back, House of Five family, to another YouTube video. In our last video, we talked about the fact that Kurt and I are finally real estate investors, and we are so excited about this because we have been executing steps in our financial house now for about 2 years. And so it's so exciting to finally see those things come to fruition. But what I thought would be really helpful for you, especially if real estate investing is something that you want to do, or maybe you want to reach financial independence, but you don't know how you're going to do it because you are just, um, struggling with debt. I would like to share with you what exactly we did and the steps that we took to get our financial house in order. And again, I want to apologize for the lighting. These are my first couple YouTubes. I need to get some new lights, and I just tried my cameras and none of them are going to work for this. So I need to get new cameras. So for now, I just want to get the information out there because I think it would be really helpful for all of you. So I thought it would be very helpful for us to go back over kind of where we started 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, about when we found the financial independence community. And just real briefly, if you're not familiar with what the financial independence community is, the acronym is FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And I'll link in the notes where you can get more information about what exactly that means. In just, brief 11-second elevator pitch, we're people who want to not necessarily retire early so much, but become financially independent. Where if we chose not to, we would not have to work by traditional employment. We could use either our investments or passive income to live on. So, and how you determine how much you need to do that is by 25 times your expected annual expenses. So, for instance, you would need to have saved $1 million. That $1 million would be in your investment accounts, earning traditionally between 7 and 8% interest. The interest from that $1 million would equal $40,000 a year, and that would be what you would live on. You wouldn't touch the $1 million, you would simply live on the interest. Now, we have taken a different approach in that because our debt was so high and because we found this idea, philosophy later in life, at the time we were 46, we felt that the easiest way for us to do that was build our passive income up to the amount that we felt that we needed to live on for our family. And that dollar amount is $5,000 a month. Well, because we are so far in debt, there's no way that we can save $1 million in the time that we wanted to become financially independent. And our goal was to become financially independent at age 55, which now that we're both just about 49 is 6 years away. So as you can see, we would have to make a lot of money to be able to save $1 million. So we have chosen a more outside of the box option, and that is to increase our passive income through real estate investing. When we thought about real estate investing initially, we were very gun shy because we had made such big mistakes. Well, this time we did it very differently. We'll go over where we believe someone needs to be before they should even consider real estate investing. But for now, what we're going to talk about are the steps that we took to get our financial house in order to invest in real estate. I think the first step that you need to have is to know where you are. If you don't know where you are, you don't know what it's going to take to get you where you want to be. And at the time when we started this financial independence journey, we were beyond broke. We had close to $1 million in debt between our mortgage, our cars. We had 3 cars with car payments. We had a mortgage that was over $500,000. We had student loans. We had some tax debt. We had credit card debt. You name it, we had it. We had some things in collections. We were in a pretty sorry state of affairs. And it's not for not having good income. We had great income, but like most Americans, we were living paycheck to paycheck and we were spending it all, a lot of it in debt service and a lot of it in simply crap. So know where you are, and it's a painful experience. And if you're having trouble kind of figuring out where you are, you can go over to my website, houseoffi.com, and check our 7-step money foundations course. That will help you know where you are. There's some systems that we will walk you through in order for you to figure out where you are. But we knew we were broke, and we knew that we didn't want to be broke. So the next step is know where you want to be. What exactly do you want? And that's going to be different for everybody. For some people, it may be $1 million in the bank. For some people, maybe not so much. For some people, it may mean that they don't want to quit their jobs, but they want to travel all over the world. And any of those things are okay. But in order to know what you need to do, you need to know where it is that you want to be. In our circumstances, I wanted to quit my law practice. I was beyond burnt out. We had just adopted 4 little boys, and now we had 6 children. We were a family of 8, and I wanted to be there for my children. Some of them have special needs, and they came from trauma, and I just really wanted to be with them. That's where my heart was. But there was no way that I could do that because we relied on my income. I was a lawyer, I was making really good money, and we had all this debt. So I wanted to be able to quit my job. So knowing what I was bringing in was one thing I needed to know, but I also needed to know what were we spending our money on and how could we cut that. And so with knowing those two things, I could fill the gap. Um, the other thing that we really wanted for ourselves was to have a savings account. We did not want to be perpetually in crisis. If something happened, we wanted to be able to pay for it. So we wanted a healthy emergency fund. I would suggest starting out with at least $1,000 emergency fund. Once you are in a better position with your debt and expenses, you should build that up from anywhere from 3 to 6 months. If you're self-employed, I usually recommend a much higher emergency fund, anywhere from 12 to 24 months, because if you are self-employed, your business can fluctuate. And I would feel a lot better as being self-employed, having a bigger emergency fund. The other thing that we wanted, which we had not done our whole entire lives at 46, is we did not have retirement accounts. Throughout, leaving jobs, we would cash out our retirement accounts and we would go spend the money on who knows what. And we knew that it was important for us to have retirement accounts, not necessarily to live on when we retired, but to at least have that money set aside for a legacy for our children. And the second part of that is the investing in real estate. The real estate income was how we were going to be able to live and not touch those retirement accounts. So that's where we wanted to be. And so then the third component, once you know those two things of knowing where you are, knowing where you want to be, is to develop a plan to get there. So we did that by examining our expenses, spending less, asking the question of every single thing that we spent money on. Can I reduce this, or can I eliminate it entirely? And when I say we examined everything, we examined everything. Cable, we got water delivered. We stopped doing that. We bought a water filter, and now we go and we refill those. That saves us $100. We no longer had a housekeeper. That saved us $300 a month. We examined our auto insurances. We examined our food budget. We began prepping our meals. We began meal planning. We examined everything. For our debt accounts, we looked at what will give us the biggest bang for our buck. There are typically two types of debt payment strategies that most people use, and that's either the debt snowball strategy or the debt avalanche strategy. And just real briefly, the debt snowball method is taking the accounts with the lowest balances and paying them off in order, paying the minimums on everything else. And then once you have one item paid off, you take that item's normal minimum payment and you add that along with whatever extra money you have onto the next highest balance, and you do that until you're debt free. The avalanche method is basically the same thing, but you're doing it in order of interest rate, because the higher the interest rate, the more you're paying out every single month to that creditor. We opted for a combination of the two, but what we added into the mix is we had a couple debts where we had high payments on them, but we knew if we would pay them off quickly, it would increase the available amount of monthly money that we had. So for instance, we had a past due tax for state taxes in Arizona, which was $3,000. The payment on that was $1,000 a month. So we attacked that aggressively and paid that off as soon as possible. That gave us $1,000 more a month to put back into our budget, which was huge, which would then allow us to pay off other items with smaller balances in one fell swoop. And then we employed the Avalanche method by looking at the balances and paying off that way. And then the final thing that we did is we thought outside of the box by increasing income. And so one of the ways that we would do that is we would do particular side hustles. We would sell things. We would flip things on eBay and Poshmark. I did some Instacart driving for a while. I tried Uber, I tried Lyft. I didn't really care for those, but we tried all these things to figure out what we felt that we could do in our spare time to bring in extra money into the household to throw it onto our debt. So spending less and then increasing your income, but also then saving more. We decided that not saving money was not an option. So we immediately increased Curtis's retirement contributions to a point where we felt that it was appropriate. So initially, before we started this process, our savings rate was about 5 to 7%. And now at this time, it is resting right at about 30%, which is a huge amount. And we're seeing our retirement accounts increase very quickly. The final thing that we did to kind of supercharge all of those categories was we looked at what assets we had, and how could we kind of kick this whole process into superdrive. And our solution was to sell our house and become renters. We analyzed whether or not we could buy a smaller home and if that would make sense with the sale of our house, or if we should become renters. And ultimately the decision was made that we would sell our house and we would become renters again. That would save us almost $1,100 a month, which again is very huge. The next thing that we could do with the proceeds of the sale is we could pay off all of our consumer debt. We still haven't been able to touch our student loans yet, but we did pay off our consumer debt. And by paying off our consumer debt, we added another, I think, $1,600 into our budget. So with those two things and with reducing all of our expenses, I was able to retire my law practice. We were able to reduce our monthly expenses so significantly that we could not only support our household, what we needed for our living expenses and our student loan payments, but we were making enough that I did not need to have the income from my law practice anymore. It was huge for our life, and it really checked off three of the things of where we wanted to be. If you remember, the four things that we wanted was to quit my job as a lawyer, to have savings, and to have retirement accounts. And so by selling our house, we were able to knock out the first three things. We even had enough left over to begin investing in real estate. With what was left, we were able to put a down payment on 4 properties in the Midwest, which has given us an additional cash flow of $1,000 a month. We do not intend on using that money to support our household. That will be purely savings, which we intend to then turn into additional real estate investments to continue to increase that passive income. As you recall, we want to get that up to $5,000. So with just one step, and that being selling our house, we are 1/5 of the way there to that goal. And once we reach $5,000 a month in passive income, that is after expenses, after accounting for vacancies, after all of that overhead, that we will have $5,000 a month coming in. And at that point, we can live. Kurt can retire if he wants to. I can continue to stay home with the kids, and we can do whatever we want. That is how we got our financial house in order. And if you are wanting to do something similar, I think those are the 3 critical steps that you need to take. Knowing where you are, knowing where you want to be and developing a plan to get there. And if you think that that is just a lot to do by yourself, please know that you are not alone. That is what we are here for. You can join our private Facebook group and become part of our community. You can follow my blog, which is houseoffi.com, and you'll get updates on when new videos and new posts are out that will help you. I'm on all the social media, and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to have a video out every week that will give you tips that we're using to become financially independent. We are a large family, and we want all families to know that this is something that you can do. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You can change your life, even at age 49, even with almost $1 million in debt. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is simply taking action, controlling your finances once and for all, and getting the support that you need to get there. So subscribe to my channel, join my private Facebook group, and we will see you again here next week.